All right, what's going on, guys? Shay5969 here, and today I'm with Mr. Aries EDC himself, a very special guest. And something I've been doing on my channel is I've been doing some sit-down interviews, kind of. I call them artist to artist, and basically kind of just going over some like inspirations, stuff about the trade, things of that nature.
Okay.
So first thing we'll get right into is for anyone who doesn't know, you are an awesome fixed blade maker for sure. Um,
Thank
how
you.
long have you been making fixed blades?
Um, so I've been doing it not for very long, only about I think 4.5 to 5 years
Okay.
is just, and it's just like a part time. It started off as like a hobby. I was just kind of doing it on the side, and it's kind of grown. But yeah, I haven't been doing it really that long.
So I wanted to say, like, how long have you versus collecting? Like, how long have you been a collector versus like making?
So I've always been into like pocket knives and any kind of knives. So
Totally.
that was always kind of part of my life. And it wasn't like I wasn't huge into it until later on, because I was in education,
Okay.
so carrying a knife wasn't really something that I was allowed to do while I'm working in schools and stuff.
That makes sense.
But I always had them around, and then I got out of that, and then I started to get into more of the knives and learning more about it and getting into some of the really cool stuff that we all get into with antiques, and then getting into more of the modern folders. And then, um, so collecting started, and then I started kind of doodling things, and then I started getting into fixed blades, and then uh, EDC fixed blades kind of like became something I was like enthralled in. And then I fell into making in a weird, in kind of a weird way. So to answer your question, yeah, my collecting of folders definitely started before fixed blades, because I never really needed a fixed blade until a certain turn in my life happened, and then
Sure.
I kind of was started playing with that idea of carrying one, and then the making thing just turned into a whole nother ball
Totally.
game.
So do you recall like one specific knife from when you were younger that like got you sucked into the hobby? Was there like one that caught your eye specific that you can remember, or is it just kind of just growing up?
No, it was just kind of growing up. Like my dad really wasn't into knives. He had his old Boy Scout folder, which I had. He actually, I have it in a case, but he had one from when he was a kid, his Boy Scout knife, and he had that laying around. But he didn't really get into it. My friend, he was a big hunter, and I've never been a big hunter. We would go camping and sailing and all those types of things, but it was never like I wasn't. I just didn't grow up that way. So, but my friend was a hunter, and he had a really cool collection of knives, and I would go over there. But really, as an adult, I got a case and I got a couple other things that got me into it. And then I really started to fall into watching some knife content, and got introduced to like Nick Shabazz and Metal Complex and some of the other
Totally.
names that have been around for a while. And then I was just kind of like, okay, wait, whoa, there's some really cool stuff out there that I need to get into. And that kind of, so I kind of got started a little late into really the main collecting things, but I've always been interested in them.
Totally. Yeah, and that I feel like those guys are instrumental. Nick Shabazz and MC are totally instrumental for a lot of people when they first get into the hobby and start looking for stuff, because it's like that's usually who you're going to land on is those kind of guys, you know.
Yeah. And they've
Um,
changed, or Metal Complex has changed, because a lot of his content is really high end stuff now. But
yeah,
at the time that I got into it, he was still doing more budget friendly stuff. So I mean, he still does budget friendly stuff, but
no,
then
yeah,
there's so many other channels doing it now that the the world is your oyster.
totally, totally. So I wanted to ask, so especially in regards to knife making, do you typically, I know like for me as a musician, I struggled with ever like calling myself an artist. Do you see yourself as an artist with as far as like knife making goes?
No, I 100% struggle with that
I can
because
relate.
I get called that all the time. And anybody who follows my channel and is a fan of my work and does all that, they know I'm going to be like, no, I'm not an artist. I just kind of make things that I hope people appreciate, and obviously some people do. So I'm very thankful for that. But for I struggle with even calling myself a knife maker for the longest period of time because I didn't feel like I had earned that title, and now I feel like, yeah, I'm a knife maker. I'm making knives fairly confidently within my wheelhouse of my skills of what I'm supposed to do. So yeah, to for someone to say I'm an artist, I don't know. It's funny how some of my followers and stuff have come up with different names.
Oh,
Different
dude,
besides
totally.
artist, they call me something completely different. Wizard comes up a little while
Yeah, there you
sometimes.
go. There you go. I
I'll
like that
accept
one.
wizard. I'll accept wizard.
That's a pretty cool one to take on. I think that
Yeah,
one's
yeah.
pretty sweet.
I'm
Um,
fine with the wizard.
so, um, outside of like the realm of pocket knife EDC stuff, um, what art would you say has like the most influence on your knife making?
Um, I guess that's an odd quote. Art has influence on my knife making. Um, well, I mean, the biggest influence on my making is coming from like the production folder world, where I'll see a cool blade shape or handle shape, and I'll be like, hey, that would be really cool on a little folder or a little fixed blade. I'm sorry.
Totally.
So that's where I gain my inspiration from, is just seeing that. As far as like art, uh, yeah, I don't. I guess that would be a little bit. I guess you can call that art, but that would be difficult for me to be like pull inspiration from something outside. And I'm not opposed to that, but that's kind of a where I gain my inspiration from with my making. A lot of it has derived from seeing a shape or something, and I'm like, yeah, that would be cool to kind of put into a blade.
Totally. Yeah, I know that was kind of a weird out there question, but I just kind of wanted to maybe relate the art side of it a little bit back to the knife making itself. But I also wanted to ask you, so how long did your first ever knife take you to make versus, because I follow you pretty regularly. I was watching a couple of your videos the other night, and seems like versus like when you first started versus now, like how much of that process have you refined to like, so where would you say it took your first knife like a week or a month or something, and now it takes you like a few days to finish one? How has that evolved over time, would you say?
Oh yeah, that has totally evolved over time, because when you first get into it, especially into knife making, there's so many things you don't know. There's things you
Totally.
think you know and things that you just don't know. And then I always suggest anybody, if you're going to get into knife making, is find a mentor, find somebody you can lean on. And the knife community, the maker community, is pretty open. If you find somebody that, even on Instagram, you can reach out and ask questions, and they're more than happy to help. So yeah, in the beginning, with the equipment that I had at that point in time compared to the equipment I have now, yeah, it would take me my first knife. And of course, I was working full time at another job and only really working on weekends. So it took me a couple months to finish my first blade.
Okay.
Um, and then for now, it could take me, depending on what the steel is and the processes. People ask me all the time, how long does it take me to make a knife? And the problem is, I'm never just making one.
That makes sense. That makes sense.
I'm always making a batch, so I'm working on 3 or 4 at a time. So that, yeah, I can get them within a week's span of with my current schedule. I can get them pretty much done. So if I was just to work on one knife, yeah, I could probably within a couple days get it from a bar of steel to a finished product.
That's awesome. Um, yeah. So from like making each knife to selling each knife, does it kind of feel like maybe a little bit losing a child with each one in the sense of like maybe a part of you kind of? Because it does
Yeah,
take a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in the process, you know, and even though, like you said, right, even though you have refined it over time, there's still a lot that goes into it. So, in some way, does it kind of feel like you're losing a little part of you when one leaves? Even though you intended to make it and sell it, right? So like there's that aspect of it, but I assume that on some degree, um, does it kind of feel like that to some extent?
yeah. I mean, when you work hours and hours on a product, and then at the end of the day, you're like in the very beginning when I was making, and nobody knew really who I was, and I was just kind of starting to make a name for myself. And I would work on stuff, and I was like, I don't even want to put this up for sale. And then, but also as an artist, you see all the flaws. That's the problem too. Is I can look at it and I'm like, oh gosh, I could have done better with this, or I could have done better with that. And I look back at some, like I still have my first knife, and I look at it now and I'm like, oh geez, but it was my first knife, so of course it's not going to be as refined as what
Right.
I'm doing now. But yeah, it's very difficult to be like, yeah, I'm gonna let that one go.
I could imagine.
But now it's a little easier now, just because I need to keep that going, to keep the ball rolling, to be able to keep doing this the way that I'm doing it. So
Totally.
yeah.
So, I wanted to ask, do you have like a Mount Rushmore of like some of your favorite knife makers?
Oh yeah, Jason Knight is probably the top of that Mount Rushmore. Just the stuff that he is making, and he's forging and everything else, which is not what I do. I'm a stock removal knife maker, but he's forging, and just some of the stuff that he puts out is absolutely beautiful. Just absolutely beautiful. And there's so many other guys out there. I have my friends. My buddy of mine is Corey Hawley, and he just makes some amazing stuff. And we've become friendly, and we've done some collaboration projects together. But he just does this amazing nightmare grind. That's one of his
Oh,
blades right
dude,
there.
I was staring at that one the other night. That is
Yeah.
a very pretty grind.
So
Lot
he
going
does
on.
these. So it's a hollow grind, and even the swedge is a hollow grind. And just the way that he does it on all of his blades is just sick. So like that's a standard for which I look at, and I'm like, okay, one day I'll be able to have the equipment and the skills to be able to do something like that. And that's his design aesthetic. That might not be what I end up doing, but I would like to be able to build upon my skill base to
Oh,
be able to
absolutely.
do something like that.
And then, so I wanted to ask, so if you're alone in the shop working on something, what do you like to listen to? Are you a
Uh,
podcast guy? You album guy? What do you like?
no, I'll put on some, just my playlist probably. So and I have a very odd eclectic music.
I'm the
Everybody
same way.
knows me. Everybody knows me as the Primus guy, so I love
Oh,
Primus
I
and
got to
Les
see him live.
Claypool.
I got to see him live. I love
Uh,
Primus.
that my first concert was Primus and Fishbone. So I don't know if you've ever heard of Fishbone,
I have
but it's
not.
an all black. I guess it now would be kind of considered a ska band, but back then this was like the 90s. So this was when Primus was just getting started. This was before they were Primus. But and
Okay.
I've seen them 3 or 4 times now. And yeah, but Primus and Fishbone, if you look up Fishbone, they're ridiculous, but they're awesome all at the same time. So seeing those two in concert at this small little theater was ridiculous.
Oh, heck yeah. Um, so what do you like more, making blades or making content?
I would definitely rather just go make blades.
Heck yeah.
The content, it's funny that my channel evolved the way that it did. The reason I started my channel was I started making knives and I was putting them on my Etsy store. And, who's Aries EDC? Nobody knows who I am. So I was like, well, how am I going to sell these? How am I going to drive people to the Etsy store? Well, I better start working on social media. So I started posting little bits and pieces here and there on the knives that I was making. And I was just highlighting the knives that I was making, trying to push people to the Etsy store. And then people started to comment. People have been like, I would like to see how you do this and how you do that. And then I started just, it kind of all evolved from there. And then it became people are invested into the story for which
Oh,
those
totally.
blades are taking. And like just finishing up some of the ones that I just finished, people are, I I am just telling that story to be able to finish that, and then so people are invested in what's going on. So that I would much rather just go out in the shop and work and not have to set up a camera and worry about this shot and that shot. It would probably save me a lot of time, but
Right, right.
people are invested with what I'm doing, and it still drives people wanting to purchase one of my knives. Plus, if it is like somebody who has gotten on the books and has been able to make one with me, they get to watch the process. So it's
Super
exciting for
cool.
them to watch their knife that like come to life and be built. Like just recently I did that one, and so that
Very
person
cool.
just sat and was able to watch this come alive and to be built.
Super cool.
So
And it tells an awesome story. And it's totally cool when you can watch something from start to finish. And then, like, later, a couple years down the road, you're sitting at a friend's house and you're like, hey, check this out. This is the guy who made my knife. This is him making it. That's so cool. Not a
yeah,
lot of knife makers offer that. So that's like one thing I think is really awesome that you do. And I think is really cool. Um, so I also wanted to ask you, what are a couple of your biggest passions outside of knife making?
family is the biggest passion. Just being able to spend as much time with them as I possibly can. I'm also a huge reptile nerd.
Okay.
Uh, so this room that I'm sitting in is a wall in my garage. Um, and this room used to be full of snakes and lizards and all kinds of stuff. And I was producing animals, breeding them. I had educational reptile shows and that kind of
Oh,
stuff. I would
very cool.
travel around. So I still have a couple, but I've pretty much moved on from that for my own personal reasons. But I'm still a giant reptile guy. I still love snakes and lizards and turtles and all that kind
Very
of stuff.
cool. That's funny. Titanium Justin, I was hanging out in his live earlier, which is actually funny. I think that's how I first found out about you and started interacting with you was in some lives. Like I think Titanium Justin's live being one of them. And then I do recall he got one of your knives to check out, and I was like, "Whoa, that is cool." And I think
Yeah.
that was like one of the first times I saw your work, and actually had the pleasure of talking to you. I do believe.
Yeah, that was awesome. Yeah, I like Titanium Justin. Me and him tried. We're just. I tried to get on his live streams before, but it's just so difficult with my schedule and his schedule. Me trying to get time together. It's been tough.
Totally. I can imagine the free time is probably not always there when you want it, you know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
Um, so I wanted to ask, what do you think in your opinion is harder? Do you think building the knife is harder, or do you think selling it is harder? I mean, you kind of touched on it a little bit already when we were talking about the whole YouTube side of it, but
Yeah.
that was one I
I
did
mean,
want to ask you.
so the YouTube thing and the Instagram I have been totally blessed with being able to sell most of my products um, fairly quickly. So I'll drop something, and usually within a couple hours, they're all sold. So just so like every other month, a I'll do a drop on my Etsy store of like 6 or 7 blades, and for the most part, they sell within minutes to. And I just this last one I did Hawks, which is this model. Um, the camera's backwards. So it's that model, but I did them all in the different Kieranite, which is bright and
Okay.
shiny stuff. And just one set for a week, but it sold. So I'm blessed with that. But it took me time and a lot of effort to get there. So
Absolutely.
in the beginning, it's a lot harder to try to make the sales than it is the building. The building is kind of the fun part. The selling it is kind of the where you got to put in a lot more work to try to get them sold and to do
Totally.
everything else. So, um, that the YouTube channel and the Instagram have been monumental in helping me get the word out about my work and trying to sell the blades that I can. Because if I'm not selling, then I can't really be making. Because
Sure. That makes sense.
it's one part or the other. I gotta sell so I can get more materials so I can keep making.
Totally. So what are a couple of your favorite handle and blade materials to work with? Would you say?
Just personally, G10 and micarta are probably my two favorites, just because they're easy to work with. Although lately, the carbon fiber is just a nasty stuff to work with, but it ends up looking really nice at
Yeah,
the
that
end. So
that's a
like
wicked looking blade right there.
this
That thing
is
looks cool.
the camo carbon, the damtanium camo carbon with glow in the dark blue liners and glow in the dark blue pins. But yeah,
Very
this
cool.
is a new model I just did called the Micro, and so I like that material is fun. But to be honest, micarta and any version of micarta, burlap, linen, whatever, rich light, all of those are probably my favorites. And just there's nothing wrong with just a nice G10, just a nice plain G10. I'll show you that one. but
Yeah, that looks
but
cool.
yeah, so this is a Talon. So that's I've only made two of these just because it wasn't easy for me to do that. And but I've
Yeah, that's
made
a
some
wicked
other.
blade shape.
Yeah, it's fun. So if you're into knives and like making, there's a channel, I don't know if you've heard of it, Simple Little Life.
Mm-mm.
So he's awesome, and he did this design challenge, and he had that blade shape with a different handle shape, and he put it out to other makers to do, and I was very inspired by that, and I went ahead and tried it,
Yeah,
and
that's a
I I
sweet looking
I,
blade.
I struggled through it. That tip comes down to basically nothing,
Wow.
and is just super slicey. But
Totally.
yeah, so I've made a total of two of these now, and it's not a pattern for which I do very often, just because it scares the heck out of me.
I saw the one you did with Bluminati Ninja. Was that essentially that knife just on a larger scale? Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
so
Okay.
it was this. It's called a Raptor, and there's only one, and Bluminati has it. So there's a whole story behind that. Um, because of this knife, and everybody who followed the channel and followed the build on this one, they know I struggled with doing it, but everybody really likes the look of it. And Bluminati being Bluminati, he likes bigger blades, which I'm not a big maker of. And he has one this is a model that I had called the Crow. And that at the time was the biggest blade that I made. And he had the very first Crow that I made. And he jokingly, in a live stream or something, was like, I need a Talon the size of a crow. And then that evolved to we'll call it a Raptor. And then for about a year, he gave me a hard time about making one of those. So um, I ended up making that one, and it turned out awesome. And the community stepped up and actually paid for it so that Illuminati could get it.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, it was just I finished that project, and he had to get it but he's gone through some hard times as of
Absolutely.
this year, if you everybody should know, but and I knew he couldn't afford it, and two community members stepped up and were like, "Hey, Illuminati needs to get that knife. I'm gonna help. I want to help pay for it. I don't care if I'll pay for the whole thing. We just want to make sure he gets it."
Very cool.
And he got it. And the thing is a one of one. I don't know if I'll ever make another one, but yeah,
Very
that thing
cool.
is ridiculous.
Very cool. And I'll make
Absolutely.
sure I link some of the stuff uh, in the video as well. But also, I wanted to ask you. Um, so when you were first starting out, do you recall one piece of advice that really made a lasting impression on you?
Oh yeah, there was a lot of pieces of advice that it all depends on whether it's like the grinding feel or hand sanding, or there was just a lot of different things. And one of the things that I did was I started bringing my work to people for them to look at, and they would look at it and be like, are you open to feedback? And of course I was like, yeah, I want to grow, I want to get better. So it was even these things out, make sure your bevels are even, you could do this, you could do that, to try to do things. One of the, like, but then there was just like little things like, hey, this is how I cut my sandpaper for when I'm doing hand sanding. You can use these EDM stones to try to get a really smooth hand sand out. Or a Scotch Brite belt to help with your finishes, and just like little tips and tricks like that. And there's so many things I've forgotten a lot of them, but and just seeing other people's work and asking, hey, how'd you get that finish on that blade? And it was like, well, I only did this. So it's always been about asking questions and trying to figure out ways that I can make it work within the equipment that I have or the skills that I have to do that. So yeah, there's just so many different. I just picked so many people's brain on how to drill a hole, what kind of drill bits to use. I really struggled with that. So full carbide drill bits on steel and stepping it up, going small and working your way up to a bigger hole, and going slow on the when I'm cutting the steel out is sometimes slower is better. Same with my drill speed. Slower is 100% better than the fastest speed on the drill press. So I have like all my drill presses are set at the absolute slowest speed, and it just I luckily, knock on wood, have had much more success with just drilling a hole. But these are like little tips like that that you pick up from
Totally.
people.
And those are the things that end up saving you a lot of time in the later years, right? So,
Yep.
totally. So when you're feeling like stuck on a project or like you're feeling like kind of blocked or something, what's something that you like to do personally to like work through that funk kind of?
Um, I just take a step back. I if I'm really getting frustrated with something, it's not working. I'll take a step back, walk away from it, and just try to get it out of my mind, and then come back with a fresh pair of eyes, and then really try to figure out, okay, maybe I missed something. Maybe my grinder is not at the right angle. Maybe I need to make sure everything is 90 degrees, or is there something else going on with the blade? Is it warped? Is it so? There's all of these things that have popped up that I've been like, oh, okay. And then knife making is just a series of solving problems. You're
Sure.
going to run into problems, and you have to figure out how to solve that problem to get to the next step. And that's basically knife making. Okay, I need to cut this material to shape. How do I do that? Okay, well, these are the things that you could do, and then grinding and everything else. So
Very cool. Um, so out of all the processes from start to finish, do you have like a favorite one specifically, like grinding versus etching versus carving the handles or something like that?
I really like the handle work, being able to get the handles nice and smooth and fill the hand really well, because that's when grinding the blade is definitely a talent. But then when you can shape that handle, I'm trying to find something. I guess I'll just show you that. When you get that, and then you get it to the point where you can hold on to it and you can feel, that's when it really just becomes that blade, that it becomes an extension. Feeling that part gets comfortable, and just that's when it all comes together for me. Is once I get it everything hand sanded out, which, and I do everything by hand, especially like shaping like the handles smooth and round and everything else. I just do everything by hand. I'll start on the machine, but then I do everything by hand. So that's kind of, and then also hand sanding blades. So getting a nice hand satin finish with something like that
Oh man, that's
is
very pretty.
very enjoyable for me, to be able to get a nice hand satin finish on a finished product on a blade is enjoyable process for me as well.
Yeah, that looks great.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, very cool. Um, so maybe is there three specific tools that you couldn't live without as far as knife making goes?
Yeah. My bandsaw, my grinder, and the Dremel. So those are the three that I don't know if I could do without, at least because I just use those things to nonstop. Drilling the holes is a pain without the drill press, obviously, but I probably could bolt everything down and make it work. But without those three things, because I am constantly using those three items. Obviously, as a stock removal knife maker, the bandsaw is huge. I can't cut them out as smooth and quickly as I possibly can. I don't want to use an angle grinder or anything like that. I'd rather just use that bandsaw. So I have my Portaband bandsaw and my new. I used to have a 1x30 grinder for several years. That's how I started, and I upgraded to my 2x42 Grizzly because I don't have a lot of space. That's one thing. If you've watched my videos, uh, I'm just in my garage, and this room is already a third of my garage, so that's just 2/3 of my garage that I'm actually working in. So I don't have a whole lot of room to work. So I have this small grinder, but it gets the job done, and I'm really happy with the outcome of that.
Yeah, I definitely say it doesn't seem like it hinders your results at all. That's for sure.
Yeah, thanks.
um, yeah. Um, so can you recall some of your first ever inspirations for your first knife?
Uh, my first knife, I don't know where the inspiration for the shape came from. Um, I really don't. It's a weird, odd shape. It's a something I call the obsession. I call it the obsession because, like I told you at the beginning, I kind of started sketching something, and I sketched this design out, and it really spoke to me for whatever reason. And then I cut out the drawing so I can hold it in my hand. Now I just walk around with this thing in my hand, and I make a lot of wooden blanks, as you see. All my all my models or my patterns have a wooden blank, and then I came up with that, and that this is the first pattern I ever did, and it's called the obsession because literally I would just walk around the house with, with this in my hand, and I don't even know where the inspiration came from for that. It's just the top line, and then I just kind of drew some things out, and it kind of just worked. And then, you know, that's my first knife I ever made.
Very cool.
So, and that's it come to life. So, yep. But that's the first one. But I've totally have gained inspiration from different blade shapes. Some of my favorite knives, like let's see, the I have a model called the Cardinal, and it's very similar. It's basically an EDC fixed blade version of the Mini Archbishop from Ferrum Forge. Um, but yeah, like the QSP Penguin, um, I got that blade shape. I switched up the handle on that. This is a rock hopper, but Yeah, so that blade shape is strictly a QSP Penguin blade shape, really,
Okay.
um, but with just a different handle on it. But you know, that's where I said like that's where I kind of gain my inspiration is finding a blade shape or a handle shape where I'm like, okay, that would work, and then I could do this handle on this blade and just try to mishmash things together, and
Totally.
it ends up kind of working. And now I've just become my own kind of thing.
And then, so this is kind of a hard one, but I wanted to say, do you have like a specific one that you have made that was your favorite?
Yeah, I mean that's kind of an easy question for me. It's going to be that, and that is uh, a model I call the Bloom. It's also my production with Kubey that's available right now.
Very cool.
But and I'll show you guys. I'll show you that here in a second. But that's the Bloom for me. My so I didn't tell you, but my first EDC fixed blade was that. uh, the CRKT Minimalist by
Okay.
Alan Foltz, who incidentally Alan Foltz I now am friendly with because I've met him at a barbecue and he was just sitting. I was sitting next to him, and I was like, dude, you inspired me basically to start getting into fixed blades because
Very
that was
cool.
my this was my gateway into fixed blades on how easy it is to carry and everything else, and that was the size that I needed. So the Bloom is the perfect EDC fixed blade in my opinion. For me, in my everyday world, I don't need anything bigger than that, and I can make all the little cuts and things that I need on a daily basis with that. So the Bloom is definitely my favorite, and of course, it is my first production blade that is being produced by Kubey.
Very
Uh,
cool.
so that is the Kubey Bloom, which is exactly like my Bloom, but a little bit different. 14C, 28N, micarta. There's three different versions, but yep. So
Very cool.
I'm very excited about that, and I have some other production stuff coming down the road very soon. That is for sure.
Very cool.
So,
Um, so if you could choose to do a collaboration with anyone from history, who would it be?
ooh, from history.
Just anyone from history that you could think of that you would make a knife with, or would make a cool design for you to make, or something like that.
Oh, man, I am so bad with history. Because a lot of the people that I know are still alive. So
I mean,
I would love to.
anybody. Who would you, if you could dream collab with anybody, who would you like to work with?
Oh yeah, Jason would be the one person that I would be like, yes. His recurves, uh, kukris that he does are just pieces. He's an artist. He absolutely is an artist. So if
Very
you've ever
cool.
seen his work, yeah. If you don't know who Jason Knight is, you should definitely find that because he used to be a judge on Forged in Fire.
Okay.
But yeah, he's absolutely ridiculous the stuff he can do.
And then, do you have like a running total of how many you have made over time so far?
Oh, why? That's a tough one. Not from the very beginning. Like I have a running total of the 2025 right now, which is uh well, there's a problem with that number, but I'm going to say approximately 74. I think I'm right at 74 for this year so far. So I'm
Wow.
trying to get to 100. I'm
Very
trying to get to
cool.
100 blades for this year. So for me to say how many I've made in since starting, oh, that's a tough one. I'm probably over 200. I have to say,
Very
I'm over
cool.
200. There's 200 Aries EDC knives floating around out there somewhere.
Very cool. Very cool. Um, yeah, so I was looking at a few of your different models. I saw BEDC reviewing the Cardinal XL and the Bloom Cliff.
Yeah.
And I just thought those glow liners were so cool. They looked so cool, and I know you showed one, yeah, with the glow liners on it. Did very cool idea. I've seen, like some glow in the dark handle material, but nothing like that. I thought that was a really cool thing. Um, I've never seen it done before. Where did you get the idea for the glow liners? Is it just kind of like from the glow in the dark scales? Very, very cool. Very cool.
That's this knife that I've been holding up, glowing.
That thing's cool.
So the glow in the dark liners has been around for a while, and I've seen it done. I've done full glow in the dark handles as well. At the beginning or at the end of last year, I did this model is called the Thorn, and I did 6 thorns, and they all had a different colored glow in the dark handle. And that stuff is so powerful. Like, I don't have to charge it, it just can sit here under the lights in here. And as soon as I turn the lights off, it's going to glow.
Very cool.
And it's not going to just glow, it glows pretty bright. So if you hit it with a flashlight and charge it, it really just lights up a room. And then I saw that a company was doing the liners, and I was like, yeah, I got to do that. So the idea of that knife, the Cardinal XL, which is going to end up going to Africa. I don't know if you know Gareth HB,
I
but
do.
that is Gareth's knife. That's going to end up going to him. And he specifically, I think he asked me and him collaborated on that idea for him to get that glow in the dark liner. So I did that for him,
Very
and it
cool.
ended up looking awesome. So I'm really happy with the way that came out.
Yeah, they just pop so nice, man. I saw somebody on social media posted, they got, I want to say it was a bloom, I do believe, but with the green glow liners, and they had it glowing, and I was just like, oh my goodness, what is that? And they're like, oh yeah, this Aries EDC fixed blade. And I thought it
Yeah,
was really cool.
yeah. I've been playing a lot with the glow stuff. It's fun. It's so much fun.
Yeah, it definitely looks really cool for sure when it's all done. Um,
Hmm.
so if you could give one piece of advice to your 17-year-old self, what would it be?
Oh wow! Follow your heart. Um, there's a lot of times where you just kind of you do what you think everybody else wants you to do, but follow your heart, and it never leads you wrong. Because I never thought in a million years I'd be able to say, yeah, I'm a knife maker. I was going to be a teacher and I was going to do all these other things, and then I started following my heart, and it brought me to this, and it's just been an absolute dream to be able to sit here, talk to you, have people interested in what I'm doing and buying my knives. It's just ridiculous. So I'm just a guy in my garage goofing around, and people are interested, and that's been awesome.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. And rightfully so, man. Your knives are absolutely works of art, man. And I know, like we were saying earlier, it's hard to identify as like, yeah, I'm an artist, but like, dude, you're an artist, brother, and your work speaks for itself, man. It's very beautiful, it's very functional, and obviously there's people lining up for it, so you're definitely doing something right for sure. Um,
Thank you. Thank you.
but I do believe that was really all I had for you. If you wanted to shout anyone out or plug anything for yourself or whatever, by all means.
Yeah. So the biggest question that I probably get is, how do I get one of your knives, which will always come up in any interview or anything. So it's it's a pretty simple process. I am a part-time knife maker, and I make as many knives as I possibly can. It's just me in my garage. So I this is how I kind of run my books and my drops and how I do things. I do it every other month thing. So in January, I'll open up the books for 6 to 7 spots on my books, and I'll put a drop of video on my YouTube channel announcing that my books are open. You reach out to me on Instagram or email ariesedc@gmail.com, and you say, hey, I want to get in the books. And then I will send you a form, and we get you all squared away with whatever you want to do. You have to pick one of my patterns, but you get to pick handle materials and everything else. Then the other months, I do a drop. So I'll do 6 like this. Like, for example, for October, I'm making 7 of these. 7 thorns. They're all going to be on the Etsy store by the end of October. So at the end of October, beginning of November, whenever I'm done with all 7, they're going to hit the Etsy store. And then again, hopefully they last long, and hopefully everybody can grab one if they want one. Um, and the books fill up very fast. Usually within a couple seconds, the books are filled, and a lot of the knives sell off the Etsy store pretty quick. So I try to put as much stuff out there as I possibly can. But I know after any interview or anybody who talks about they go to the Etsy store and they don't see any knives because I'm always sold out, which is a bad problem, but it's also a great problem. But
Right, right.
I'm putting out as many knives as I possibly can. By the time they leave the shop, they're probably already spoken for. This one's already spoken for. This one is my personal one I made for me because it's a prototype basic design. The first time I've made that design, and I wanted to do it. Plus, I tried some new file work on it and did
Very
that, so
cool.
it
Very
looks
cool.
kind of cool. But
I really
um,
like that spine on that one. That's very cool.
yeah, so it's a just some it's jimping, but it's done in a different way. It still provides a little bit of grip, but it's just file work really, and some my custom old timers that I'm friendly with. They're like, it's not a custom unless it has some file work on it, and
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of crazy file work. Um, like something like that that has like a bunch of file work on it. I'm not always a huge fan of that, but I get what he's saying. That is for sure. But I have that. The Kubey blooms are available. Hopefully by the end of this year, Kubey's going to be releasing 2 more. I'm going to have a production version with Kubey of that, the
Oh,
thorn,
very cool.
and a Kubey is going to release a production version of that, which is the rock hopper.
Very cool.
Um, so hopefully by the end of this year, I'll have 2 more production models out with Kubey. Plus 2026, I have some stuff already on the books for 2026 as well with some other designs that I have. So I'm trying
Very
to not
cool.
only make as many, but offer. It's still my design, but it's just done with a production company. So I'm working with collaborating with some other Chinese production companies, trying to do some US companies, but that's very difficult to do.
I I can imagine, and I could imagine it would probably be a significant step up in price for the customer at the end as well. If
Yeah,
people don't know, usually
yeah,
American maids are a little more pricey, but uh,
absolutely.
yeah.
That is part of the deal. That is
But
for sure.
I will say, speaking on Kubi, they make some absolutely great stuff. I have a
Yeah,
Kubi. I love it. Definitely performs well. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, I really, really appreciate you taking the time to sit and chat with me. Like I said, um, I really appreciate it. Artist to artist, it's always great when you can get some more insight on someone's passion, and I think your work totally speaks for itself. I've seen it out for a while, never had a chance to get one yet, but I will one day. Um,
you got to get it. You got to get one.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I've been on it since I saw Titanium Justin. I don't know if he reviewed one or if he just had one or whatever, but yeah, totally.
They
It's
were
definitely on the list for sure.
there's those 2 are in a pass around group. So the Cardinal XL and that Bloomcliff has been all over the country.
Very cool.
And same with that. Last year, actually 2024, this was in a pass around group. So this went around to a bunch of channels and was the first pass around knife that I had ever done. So that went to a bunch of channels, and that this one kind of is a big deal because that one really highlighted what I'm doing, because all these channels, Knives Fast, Big Red EDC, Matisfaction, Juvan, all B, like all, not bees, but all these other channels got this knife in and got to handle it, did reviews on it, and then it kind of put a little bit more of a spotlight on me. And yeah, I'm pretty proud of that one. That one's my personal one, though.
Rightfully so. I mean, very beautiful work, man. And like I said, I appreciate you sitting down with me. Um,
Yeah.
I really appreciate it, and I will see you around. And you have a good night, sir.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, no problem.